guys have a point?
Yes, we do.
Yeah. I don't know today, Quattro.
Jim Piccoli is retired since you were already out.
Yeah, you retired for this,
Yeah, and Tom last year's in the hospital this week.
Oh.
Tom, but
Okay.
usually
Here
here.
we go, Tom. Any trouble with his eye?
All right.
No.
It's the guy that's
No.
maybe it's like a glass eye or something, maybe it's on the,
All right,
I'm sorry.
we'll call the meeting to order. 7:03. All right. In attendance, he is Chairman Al Garcia, Liam is seated. And Barry. Quorum of 4 people here at this moment in time. And as we see, no audience of citizens. Everybody that's here is representing parts of the agenda. So audience of citizens are not here, so we'll dispense with that. And the next item, approval of minutes. Anybody, I didn't get here until late, so I parsed all of it. Somebody that was here want to move them? Sure.
Make a motion.
Seconded by Liam. All those in favor say aye. Contrary minds nay. All right, that's minutes. I thank you for that. And new business. Ray one, yeah, Matabatas District, Arthur Simonian, Executive Director.
All right. Well, thank you for having us. John Dunham is our board chairman from, we're also a Berlin resident, board chairman from Matabatas. He's here with us. And we do this each year. We used to do it just with the council, but the last few years we've done it with quality control. We do a little high-level presentation of our annual budget, how it's derived, some of the drivers behind the budget, which is kind of summarized in that one-page sheet we have. This year's budget, we had to absorb some pretty substantial capital increases, so that was a big factor in the budget, and that went up about 22%. As for some pretty major projects that we're looking to undertake, we're also trying to build up our reserves for some major repairs. So that's kind of some of the drivers behind the capital budget. Our debt portion of the budget, that's some good news, it's actually going down. We did some refinancing of our Clean Water Fund loan with the state of Connecticut DEP, which is at 2%. We were able to get some lower interest rates on a portion of that loan, so we refinanced that at about 1.4% interest rate.
Is that something typical?
No, this year, 2 years ago, the state offered to municipalities that had clean water fund loans if they wanted to try to refinance part of the loans, they could. And they wouldn't allow us to refinance the whole entire amount, which is 79 million, about 54 million was remaining, but they did allow us to portion, I think it was about $21 million.
So it's less than 2%.
It's less than 2% because we went out to the open market and we're able to get municipal bonds at pretty attractive rates. So,
And what's the balance of the refinance? 30 years, 20 years?
it's still the same time period as original. Yep. So that was some savings this year. Operating budget increased about 3.72%, which is not too bad. And if you take out electricity, that's one thing I always look out. Take out capital, electricity is about a 3.5% increase. So pretty reasonable based on some of the things we had to absorb. The other drivers is the state corporate pension plan. The cost for that increased. They're part of the municipal employee retirement fund, so that had a pretty substantial increase. Electricity and gas, those are kind of some wild cards that I think everyone's starting to realize some higher rates for both of those because of the generation of electricity going up quite a bit, and obviously gas, natural gas drives and generates electricity. But even before the any conflict, there was some pretty high rates of chemicals is another thing that we're starting to see some substantial increases just recently as well. Labor costs, we try to keep that relatively in check. We didn't have any one new position, but about 5%, which is also driven by steps in position. The other things are pretty typical in our budgets. We make a legislative payment to the town of Comm every year as the host community. That's $100,000 that's been going on for since Middletown addition to the district. Let's talk about some of the other drivers here that are on my summary page. 5-year average flows, I mentioned impact the operating budget, and also communities were the largest flows. Obviously, Britain is still the largest flow community, but Berlin is second. So your 5-year average flows impact your operating and maintenance part of the budget. Your reserve capacity, which is 14.35, affects the debt and the capital part of the budget. So the budget's split into the revenues for our budget are split based on how much we get generate from your 5-year average flows, you compare it to the other towns, and then how much is in reserve capacity. Reserve capacity are fixed till 2030. At that point, we'll be revisiting those numbers with all the communities. So if Berlin's numbers are going down by then, and you're able to get some of the I&I reduced, then possibly lower your reserve capacity down. We still do the final review of that with everyone, but we got to make sure it's appropriate for everyone that's there. And then the operating part and the maintenance part of the budget is affected by your 5-year average flows. And Berlin's 5-year average flows, which are on the second page, printed in landscape form with the yellow highlights. If you look at kind of the bottom box of the table, it says 2017 to 2021, Berlin flows were 15.42%, and then the last 5-year period, 2016 to 2020, was 15.03. So it went up a little bit. That doesn't sound like a lot, but it's about 2.5%. And obviously, the higher that 5-year average flow is, that means you're repaying a more substantial part of the operating budget. New Britain's went down a little bit, 49.2 to 49.48. Middletown actually went down too as well. So, obviously, controlling those 5-year average flows will have an impact on the budget. The other thing that factors in, besides the I&I, is the how much we draw down on both our reserve account, which is this year we took $500,000 to help offset the increases. So we took $500,000 out of our leftover operating account to reduce how much we have to charge for assessments. And Berlin is still benefiting from the buy-in of Middletown. Middletown, when they joined the district fully in 2013, had to pay $13 million. Berlin this year received $148,000. That number goes down each year because it's designed to basically go to zero by the time the cycle's up. But I think in the second to last page of the spreadsheet, if you're interested in, it shows Berlin 148,000 highlighted. It looks like this. And it shows by the time all said and done, you'll get about $2.5 million compounded interest. Last year, you got $36,000 in interest. This year was only $5,500. Obviously, the interest rates fell off the scale there. But over time, you see how the payments are going down. That was just how it's designed, just so it goes down to zero. Unfortunately, the lower the credit each year, the more your assessment has to go up compared to the year before to make up for it. But it's not like you're paying necessarily a higher percentage, other than if your 5-year flows go up. But the credit artificially inflates how much your assessment increases because you're comparing to the year before. If you didn't have that credit, $148,000, your assessment would be that much higher this coming year. So, and speaking of assessments, turn to, I think there's a page before that has all assessments broken down. Berlin's assessment this year is $2.270 million, about $192,000 increase from the year before. 9%, sounds like a substantial amount percentage increase, but 2.5% of that is just flows. The other part is credits have gone down, so that's going to inflate that number a little bit. And obviously our costs had to go up a little bit too as well. So New Britain's went up 7.6% or 482,000. Cromwell's went up about 61,000. And Middletown's went up 219,000. So Middletown, you won't see as much of a percentage increase because they don't get the credit. So because you guys see that reduction in the credit each year, it's going to artificially look like your budget and your assessment's going up higher than it should. And it's just because the credit's being reduced. And we also are using our interest income, not too much obviously this year, sludge management, $875,000. Reserve transfer from the operating budget this year is $500,000, so that'll help offset things. And that's essentially it on the revenues. We are still doing energy projects too. We just completed an energy performance project, and we should start seeing some of the savings for that. That's helping out. We look at fuel cells. We're also part of the demand response with Eversource and ISO New England. So there's a high demand on the electric grid in the summertime. They call us to fire our generators. So we take our 1.5 megawatt load that we have on the grid and take it off the grid to help things out, and they pay us for that. So that generates about $100,000 a year revenue to help offset that. So obviously we got to pay for the fuel for the generators, but it's nowhere near 100,000. So it's a good thing that we have that. John, I don't know if we'll talk now.
Yeah, and I think
the highlights.
well, first of all, I don't know if anybody has any questions. Maybe if you have questions on the budget first before I have my statement.
The only comment I had was I was looking at the tracking of this since 2014.
Last page.
Yeah, 2014. It's about $1 million more in each year.
Yeah.
So it's been tracking about that's quite a bit in a 8-year period.
Yeah, 2014 is a kind of an artificial year. You see the budget was $65 million.
What do you mean by artificial?
Well, because that was when they had funds for the upgrade project, for the $100 million nitrogen upgrade project.
Okay, for the upgrade of the plant.
Major
Yes.
plant upgrade.
So what I did on my right side, I said the average annual increase from 2017 to 2023, which is when the budget was more consistent, didn't have that artificialness from the funds that were borrowed from the state, which really kind of screwed up our budgets per se in terms of assessments. So, and then obviously we got to start paying down the debt, right? So a big part of the budget is debt, and we started absorbing that debt in 2016, I think it was, and 2015. So that's why you'll see more of an increase in our budget starting then too as well. So if you look at Berlin, 3.67% average annual increase from 2017 to 2023. Not too bad. Middletown saw 11% increase, mostly because they joined our district fully, so they brought all their flows to us at the end of 2019. So that's why their budgets went from 2.9 million to 4.3. Again, artificially kind of inflating it. New Britain's budget from 2017 went up about 3%. And again, they saw that credit from Middletown buying, which helped offset that a little bit. And their 5-year average flows have been pretty consistent. So that's where that comes from. But yeah, I would look at really the last 6 or 7 years to be kind of fair to the budget.
6 or 7 years actual, or 6 or 7 years as projected?
Well, from 2017 to 2023, if you want to do comparison of where your assessments have gone. If you look at 2017, it was 1.86 million. In 2023, it's 2.2. So it looks like it's a $400,000 increase, but the average increase I wrote 3.67%. So it's about $400,000 over those 6 or 7 years. which is really not too bad at 3%, 6%.
In the preference, we're looking at $90 million outlay for the next 6 years for improvements for I-9.
Yes.
That means that that will cost us more for they reduce their flow.
Well, if they're able to reduce both their 5-year average flows, which again, they're 5 years, so it takes some time to see that, and also the reserve capacity, which won't change till 2030. So everybody's got a chance the next 8 years to reduce their flows. But if everyone reduced it, then, yes, theoretically, you're not gonna be able to save because you still have to pay for the budget. It's just, you want to lower your portion as much as
I appreciate
possible.
what you're doing to have the rate shock sort of soften in essence, because it always helps out. Particularly, I think you mentioned about a month or 2 months ago, maybe that the meter at the Berlin pump station is now reading 300 to 400% of
Well, we're still looking into that. We did have it calibrated to our SCADA system recently, I think in December, and we saw the numbers go up about 50 to 60% from what they were before.
Well, that's surprised, because I don't think that meter was original meter was that.
Yeah, but the total flows coming to our plant are higher than what we're measuring, so that tells me that there may be something inaccurate in that meter.
Really?
So our guys are looking into it. You may want to reach out to WG Malden, have them hook up with Charlie or Mike or somebody to verify that the meter is reading accurately.
That's a brand new meter.
Well, it doesn't matter if it's brand new. It could have a calibration thing off. It could have a multiplier that's off. But we'll check our system too as well. But I don't know if you take readings on that every week or every month, but you should probably get readings on it and see what you're getting for flows. Get your total MG per day. I would do it either weekly or daily, just for a month or two, and see what you're getting and compare that to ours. Okay.
We did talk about that at our board meeting last night. We recognize that. Over time, if that is accurate, correct, that would increase your assessment.
That ties into our backstrapping meter.
Yes.
The Kensington one, which is you and I were not necessarily familiar with. And now that we're measuring it, we're also, it's being contested as well. The flow measurements, in my mind's eye, are substantial, which would make sense to why you're seeing higher readings at the Berlin station, because it all ends up at the Berlin station.
Right.
And no matter what lining we've done, if you did the Webster Square and I did the Belcher Brook, it isn't, I mean, it helped out, but it wasn't a big input, the reduction.
Well, if the II's coming from other sources, then yeah, they'd have to go after those other areas. But lining work obviously helps preserve the pipe too as well. And there was some infiltration. There was a reduction in your I&I before that. I think I mentioned at the board meeting last year. We saw like a 2 or 3% reduction from 5-year period before. So, but obviously, we got a lot of rain this year, and if Kensington has more I&I going on, you're gonna get more flows at your turnpike as well.
Right.
So that's something that I would
Yeah,
definitely
that's the case of
make
the
those
meeting.
meetings every month, at least for a couple months. Just have someone manually read it and just do a total recording so we can compare what we're seeing.
Yeah, if Kensington was not improving your I&I, and they were having it there, we could see an increase in Baxter, which is then right into Berlin.
Sure. Yeah, and with the wet weather we've had 3 or 4 pretty bad storms in the last 2 or 3 months, going back to December, that we exceeded our plant capacity. I'm sure you guys see the pump stations as well. So
You get permit?
I think John's going to talk about it once we're done with questions here. So
Sorry.
I don't know if anyone else has questions.
Oh, wait, we got one more question before you. I'm not sure if this is appropriate for that or, you were looking into a relining project as well, correct?
Not a relining, we just finished investigating our sewer trunk line. It's a 9-mile pipe. I'm glad you mentioned that. We just talked about that as well last night. But it was camera, the 9 miles. We also inspected the bridge crossings. There's four crossings. One at Gill and Sons Garage, which you know about. Generally, the pipe is in very good condition. That pipe in 1968, they floated with a black, like creosote, for lack of a better word. Yeah, mastic coating, and you probably couldn't use that these days, but that coating is held up very, very well compared to other pipes that are that age. Yes, it needs some work. Didn't identify any areas that need lining. It's probably just going to be recoating in certain sections. That we'll be looking to do in probably the next 2 to 5 years.
So Cameron.
Fortunately, they didn't find any I&I.
No.
Sediment, there was a 1/4 inch of sediment on the bottom of the pipe. No blockages, no sags
Dips.
or problems areas that they identified. We thought by the Blue Lobster would be more of a problem, because that's where we tend to get manhole surcharging. But it's when pumps kick on, it forces up the force main coming up the turnpike, tie into that manhole
And
and
a
the
lot
R's,
for them.
and that pipe and manhole really just can't handle that flow all at once. But yeah, that pipe is in generally pretty good condition.
What's with it?
Yeah, that could be a major,
We were relieved.
9 miles at
It's nice to
66
hear
inch.
something good once in a while.
Bypassing that would be a very difficult project. That's one of the challenges, how to set up a
Well, it's a
bypass.
60-inch line, isn't it?
Well, it's a 60-inch line, but you
Of
need to
course,
get 3
maybe.
pipes into the manhole to be able to bypass. And then you, I don't take the manhole apart, but maybe opening up the pipe physically to get the bypass back.
Well, bypass, I know in doing the Webster's Woodlawn, the bypass, we had enough. The pipe that we put in there, we were gonna plan on 3.
Webster Height,
Yeah,
Webster Square.
Webster Square. The force main that was put in there from Woodlawn was smaller, because once it switched over from gravity to the force main, we could use a smaller pipe. We didn't even use all 3 of those pumps and whatever that they had sitting there at the corner of Mill
Yeah, I think
Street.
when we did the Break Interceptor, when I was here, they had 2 or 3 pumps set up in the Webster, and the Webster Road there, by the bank.
Yeah, by
And
Mill
they only ran in Mill Street, they only ran like 1.
That's the
like
same thing
half
we
round.
ran into this time when we
Yeah.
did it
But,
last time.
they were able to do that because of, they're locally in at night, low floor conditions. We still get, 15, 20 million gallons a day. So, all right. Any other questions before John?
Nope.
Yeah, so-
talks about a few things?
So, yeah, a little bit about our permit, since I think it's been since 2019, our NPDES permit expired. So we've been in the process of trying to get that renewed. Through that renewal process, as you might expect, DEEP in their regulatory wisdom becomes more and more restrictive. And they are trying to so right now, we bypass into a wet weather condition, and, which, I don't know, happens, 6, 7 times a year, you guys get letters on that. They're kind of saying, well, climate is changing now, so we may require you to do more, in the next 5 years. And so geez, I mean, we're just finished $100 million plant upgrade, we use all the footprint of our facility, how much work can we couldn't really do anymore. We would have built more tankage if we could have, but we just didn't have the space available for it. So they're writing it into the permit that it's still a violation every time we bypass. We are contesting that during the permit release period, which we have, it's the 30 days expired last month, February 28th. We had our attorney write up basically, it looked like a brief, but a number of points of where we disagree with points that DEP is making in the permit, and we're on record with that. So the next step of the process is now for DEP, through their staff, is to address those comments, and we'll take that up from there. We are not admitting that climate is changing necessarily, not that is, but that we should be penalized for that. The towns are under consent orders, many of them to control the I&I, and we feel the responsibility lies there and doesn't lie with the district, and that we shouldn't have to rebuild our plant again after all that we did. So what we did commit to DEEP with was that we would, continue to work with towns and encourage them to do as much as you can on your I&I to reduce your failures. So ultimately, it does benefit the communities, because the less you send, as we mentioned, presumably your assessments will go down unless everybody's went down, and still have to share the cost of the facility. So we're working with deep on that as best we can, and we're not just accepting that, yeah, okay, we have to do the upgrade. That's not practical. So that's it. Hopefully we'll get a permit and we'll start operating.
Just before, Ray, one of the things I wanted to add too is that DEP is under a new permit. They put a new table there that they want us to get flows during wet weather events from all the communities. What are the actual flows? And we said, well, we have meter data at certain locations, but other locations don't have real-time data. You have it read manually. I said Berlin is also upgrading some of their meter stations, which will be put on SCADA and have more electronic controlling. But I said, we'll certainly, provide any data we have, but they are going to be really pushing to get more real-time data for all connections coming into Madabassas.
But we didn't agree to give that to them.
No,
Just
we told
giving
them to
them what
provide whatever we have.
Right,
but-
they were looking for us to do more, and we said, listen, we'll give you what we have,
Yeah,
but we're not.
but they may start pushing for maybe into the communities about getting real-time data.
I think that's what they need to do. First of all, I think there's got to be a sort of a local strategy, because we can't, as you know, you sat in the same chair here, basically, can't ask anybody from Worthington or Kensington to do more. So we're not in a position to push them. We, being Berlin Water Control and the Earl, who lives and myself, we did rely on, $2 to $4 million. So we went ahead. I've got 2 pump stations to rebuild, and possibly 3. I can't see doing additional I&I somewhere down the road unless the other 2 districts do it. We do know that they have I&I areas that need to be addressed. Maybe not as significant, but so substantial, still ongoing. And he has to recognize that. I replied back to Jennifer Ferry's response back in February 17, 2021. Never got a reply back. And her options were this, which I agree with you, is that they're holding you responsible by saying that either a town moratorium would be placed on the new building for conditions, or you upgrade the plant. And the upgrade of the plant is frankly is unrealistic to me, as you just pointed out, and a moratorium as well, because if the moratorium is placed on it, it's being placed on the entire town unfairly. If they place it on a district by district basis, I don't have any problem with that. But he has to recognize that I think they're doing a big mistake by holding you just constantly.
And we agree, and we haven't gone the legislative route yet, but obviously we always have our disposal to make a complaint to our legislators to that executive branch.
Because I support you on that. I don't see that point at all.
We haven't gotten there yet. Our first tack is going to be, there's a deputy commissioner there that will work pretty closely with Betsy Wingfield.
Yeah, well,
Betsy retired. So there's been a lot of retirements. Well, but she won't come back in the same capacity. So we're looking for a different contact over there to maybe the bureau chief, Graham Stevens. Reach out to him.
I know.
Yeah, so we'll try and reach out to him and work with him. Frankly, I'm not overly confident that he's going to be able to get real change from them, but at least we're going to keep a dialogue open and work with them.
I think you have to get more people into the room, basically, because I think to support yourself, because I'd be very supportive of your position, because I don't want to be in a position where we're going to be singled out when 2 or more players are not playing. As I know the Britons.
Well, they're looking at everybody.
Well, that's good. I mean,
they're not talking, when I speak here, they're not just saying, oh, Berlin. They're
I understand
everybody.
I understand it, but we're still held accountable for
absolutely
2 districts we can't do anything about. You know that.
And as far as the flow information, Berlin, fortunately, unfortunately, has many meter connections in terms of 11 or 12 now. Britain has 1, Cromwell has 11 or 12, but Cromwell's flows are very, very low with newer collection system. Middletown has, I think, 4 connections. Most come from the pump station, which is metered, and we get real-time data 24/7 on that. And then
We have some
NBC
connections.
has 3 connections, which are pretty small as well. So,
We've got a bunch of connections that are not metered at all.
well, you have some. No, there's about 2 or 3, but those are pretty low
They're small,
flows.
small.
Fieldstone crossing.
Oh, yeah, they're all low.
Yeah, those are pretty low. We're not really concerned about that.
You realize
But the other connections, even like, Corporate Westland, Commerce, some of those have pretty high flows, but the DEP may look to push to get real-time data on those, just so they can get a better handle on
Well,
it.
corporate also,
And I think-
has gone along, SAAB actually.
Yeah.
Has gone a long way to reduce their flows. And
Yeah.
That has been pretty good. I think where the problem lies, and this is the point I'm making, is that when you start stripping down the number of meter stations, Kensington has two. That presents 100% of their entire flow, Willowbrook and Backstrap. So those two, you should track them out, it's just Worthington and Berlin, basically. Because you should track out, NBC from the other end, and that's fine, so that makes sense.
So that's
But you see
something
what I'm saying,
that,
it
that's something that
eliminates
maybe,
a great deal.
maybe something that a meeting with DEP on that, just to explain that, there's other communities involved, which obviously they know because they have consent to good things already. But
Just
just,
EPA.
yeah, just so they can understand, that there's, a significant part of the flows where they're coming from, because they kind of focus their efforts where they need to. For us, they're looking at us as the permitting. We have the permit, we have the discharge permit, so they're gonna certainly put pressure on us about doing things. And, we have to be able to, the regulations say that there's no feasible alternative. That's a key part of the regulations, no feasible alternative. So, what's feasible? I realistically is feasible. Building a 5-mile tunnel that stores wet weather or stormwater flow.
We're not NBC.
Wet weather
Yeah,
fronts
no,
like
we're
NBC
not
is doing.
combined.
It's a $2 billion project.
It may cost $800 million.
That's probably
That's not
not
feasible.
It's not even doable.
Something built.
Yeah, for NBC, but I'm
So
saying.
just sort of high level, I mean, I think we're probably getting down to the weeds of it all, but, where we are is we are communicating with we're expressing our displeasure with how they feel and what they think we should be doing over there, and we are, communicating with them and working with them.
How do they?
And we commented on the permit as such to that effect.
How do they figure that you have the authority over the other?
Well, that's where we've actually combated them, said that they do not, but of course, this is more just talk on their part at this point. They haven't dictated anything to us at this point. They've just
Right.
made these comments that, so when I said, well, that could be part of a 20-year strategy. And the response I got back from the analyst, who was a mid-level manager over there, well, we were thinking more 5 years. Well, okay, well, he's a mid-level manager, and that's why we're going to the higher level of the board. We're not recommending having those discussions.
It's certainly 5 years to implement something like that is not that's a relatively unrealistic timeframe.
That's a financial burden, without a question.
So 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, I mean, by the time projects get designed, there's funding in place to do, I&I and things like that. How much I&I is actually reduced? We're having those conversations with the print too, so it's not just with you guys.
And it's an embarrassment. I said, we've just spent $100 million upgrading the city of plant, and you're saying within 10 years we're obsolete.
Right.
That's, so I think politically it would be bad for them. I think they're just sort of, they're posturing at the moment. We're working through it.
Well, it seems like they're trying to pressure you to try to find a better way to deal with
Well, because they're holding the permit over it, but
Yeah.
we've commented on that. And, we haven't got our permit, so I guess we're still operating under our old permit, obviously.
But
Trying to
even on their old permit, when we have what events are considered violations, and
Sure.
you may say, well, what's the harm in having a violation? Are they fining you, or are they shutting them down? No, but I mean, you build up enough violations that could lead
It's a bad track record.
It's a
it could lead to a case
And
in
then
the future.
financially too,
And
because
then
some
gets their
places-
position stronger if they want to come after us and say, you need to do something with your plant, and we're arguing. And now's the time to argue on our new permit that there is a feasible alternative, both I&I and our wet weather system. We treat as much as we can through our full system. We partially treat when we get high flows, meet all our permit numbers, our discharge quality is the same as whether we're having a wet weather event or a normal event like today. So from a quality standpoint, no difference. Just on the narrative and the language, you're saying you have to fully treat all your effluent, which means go through the whole entire primary, secondary systems of those aeration tanks and clarifiers. Those could handle about 55 million gallons. So we get 110 during these high storms, you guys know from my letters, 55 goes through the primary tanks, and then the other 55 goes through the full secondary tank. Blend together, go out to the river, and meet our permit numbers. So, we think we have a pretty strong case that, from a quality standpoint and a reasonable, feasible alternative standpoint, this is feasible. It's in our, it's in our engineering design drawings. It's in our old permit that the wet weather system that we treat with now was permitted, was approved by DEP back in 2015 when this whole project that came about, and accepted. So, the pressure as far as, reducing INI, regardless of what happens with our permit, that may not go away. They're still gonna be putting pressure, I think, on getting the INI reduced because they can, but I think they'd rather use our permit, put more leverage to get that done.
Right, they're just trying to use us.
Yeah.
It's almost like we work with it.
As far as this unique situation, you know as well as anybody. But to this day, I can't flush my toilets a couple months out of the year down on Washington Avenue. And it's incredible how much backflow, we're talking a couple hundred feet from the main. And it's right up to ground level. That's how much INI is. So we understand the pressure that they're trying to put on you, but how does that correlate to taking care of our problem in taking care of the two districts that are not compliant? That's the big question here.
It's on the Worthington Fire District. Our department would appreciate this more than anybody. Baxter Avenue, I pointed out, is a meter station over by Baxter Avenue. And when it runs full, he's trying to discharge into a full capacity pump, 24 inch. There's no room for it, so obviously it backs up surcharge.
That's the Kensington connection right there.
It is, yes.
He's our
That's
Kensington system.
Kensington coming down through Worthington, and Worthington obviously picking up ours and going over
It's
to
the Baxter meter.
So there's not even looking at those details.
But
There's a hell of a lot of L&I going.
Understood.
It's right there.
They're only concerned that they keep this discussed is what happens where we are.
Well, sure, you're at the end of the line.
Right.
And we discharge into the river, and we have the permit for the discharge. You guys don't have a NIPD's discharge permit. You may have some kind of general permit, possibly.
No.
They're talking about issuing general permits to WPCA's for the collection systems, whether that comes about or not. But, as Jack Melcher, and when I was here 7, 8 years ago, they had that big walkthrough where they inspected all the WPCA's in the state of Connecticut and issued findings. And CMOM orders and consent orders too. We have consent orders that were issued to certain communities. And again, we're at the end of the pipe, so I think they're kind of using us to try to put pressure on the communities to do more and more. But they look at our discharges, basically exceeding the permit.
So how are you pressuring?
How we pressuring them?
Yeah.
Well, we mentioned about we took a strong position in our letters.
Yeah.
And that's
And that's all we can do.
that's a pretty good way to do it.
Well, that's about all we can do also.
Yeah.
I mean, it isn't helpful.
But the other avenues we can do to pressure them ultimately is go to our legislators. Go, we haven't done that yet, but that would be the only avenue you really have.
At this point, at some point, we need to cut a line and say that we need to do that. Because I've been a member here and as chair for like 35 years. And that's been a subject matter since I've been here to start with. And it's not going away. And I don't see where it's actually going towards that direction. So whatever can be done with the legislature, that avenue should be open right now, as far as I'm concerned.
We're gonna see what kind of response they have, because they have so much time to respond. If, they have to agree to everything that we talked about and change some of the permit conditions.
Yeah, we asked for softening the language in the permit, and so if we get that, then that takes the pressure off the communities.
Yeah, but the pressure's been here for over 30 years. We can't seem to take care of the problem because we can't touch them. You keep saying about you're at the end, and DEP is getting on your case. Our problem could be, how do we put pressure in the areas which causing a lot of that, especially on our numbers? The bottom line, they're probably doubling our numbers.
Well, that's where we could possibly be helpful in terms of certain things on that, we've been letting you guys know when you do have high flows. We have our sewer rules and regulations. So if that's something I, haven't really brought up yet with the board, but, we have sewer rules and regulations that talk about that's not allowed to have stormwater flows into the sanitary system that we serve.
These are pipes of bad.
There's,
Art, I gotta tell you something that you probably,
there's fines associated with that
you
too. as
probably
well.
don't know, and I didn't know until I discovered it by accident. So Kensington has 3,300 customers. It has on going to Baxter Avenue, probably about 30, 40 customers over in North London. It's very minor, it's not a very big area. Going to the Berlin Turnpike, Burlington has 1,200. So 1,200 customers, 3,300 customers. We have less than 1,000 going to the Berlin pump station. Less than 1,000, so we have less than a third of all that.
So they have about 60% of the customers. Okay. So there you go. I mean, that's what your
We do
sewer
have other
system
sites,
should be
there's no
based on
question.
too as well. And if you can measure the flow through there and you come to an agreement, and I'm sure you guys may have to pursue legal routes.
I'd like to work with you guys, but then part of the problem is how do we do it?
So I think maybe, to move closer to this, because I don't think we'll be able to solve it here. But going forward, once we get the comments back from our permit, we want to continue to maybe reach out to your group or come over here periodically. Update you on where they are, or talk about different solutions to the overall problem and work towards that.
You're the chair, and I do appreciate you coming, correct? So we have two other representatives from Berlin.
That is correct.
What kind of feedback do they give, or how do they get feedback from the town to the district?
Well, they attend our board meetings. One is on the engineering committee.
I'm not certain what you're asking.
Well, how are they getting feedback from the town, Berlin Water Control, or where they?
Oh, how are the other members getting
Yeah,
the
because
feedback from the
I
town?
haven't had your interaction as Andy with this,
Right.
and I appreciate that, but I don't know how the other gentlemen get feedback from the other districts or or I've never talked to either one of them, so.
Yeah, and so I guess if they would need to, usually they get invited or could attend any of these meetings if they want. Through the years, I've kind of come over here, and prior to being chairman in 2015, I would come over occasionally. The budget is usually the annual time when you really show up. But generally, their responsibilities aren't necessarily to get the feedback from the Water Control Commission, but their responsibilities lie with the management of the district itself, even though they're a town rep. And then if there's any information to the council, usually I'm the conduit for that. Typically.
They're serving really as a representative, as John said, from the town to, make sure that the interests of the town are being represented at a Bassett. We'll see what our budgets, our capital projects, our improvements we're doing. So, that's essentially their role. They're really not supposed to be an outlet between the different fire districts to us.
Right.
Because there's no direct relationship there, but they're really there to serve, Bassett with the best interests of Berlin in mind. So that's what comes to mind. All right.
Now, I'm gonna leave on a sort note.
Or sort of where we have.
Well, I don't know, we have April 5th, we have a meeting with the town council.
Yeah.
And I've been instructed from the previous town council meeting that we're gonna be providing you with our invoice payment. But we're gonna be separating it from individual districts. We're gonna pay you separately, we're gonna be asking where they can get to pay you directly for their portion.
So you can pay less than what we're losing.
The whole amount will be invoiced, but it'll be distributed to the three districts to pay you back separately.
So you can request that the other districts pay us.
Yes.
What if they don't pay us?
It's kind of like the subject matter I brought up before we started the meeting.
I mean,
It was
we
discussed.
gave you a legal opinion on that. You're not
No,
allowed
you
to
didn't give me a
So-
legal
so,
opinion, you gave me your opinion.
No,
Maybe-
we have legal.
And I haven't done this, but should we have a meeting with the mayor on this?
You're welcome to, I'm not doing this unilaterally.
No, I understand.
You're gonna be in before the town council on April 5th. If you wanna raise it then, I suggest you raise it
Well,
then, but
I think we're not aware of it.
yeah, don't forget, I'm the messenger, so I'm not trying to be
Right.
a believe opinion.
Right.
Where's this coming from?
because we're tired of gaming.
But what committee is this coming from? Does this come from the council?
This is coming from
water
the town
control?
council.
Town council approved this?
Yes.
They already took action on it, or
They instructed me that I should go ahead and,
do you have a motion on that I can see?
it's in the executive session. Because simply,
I know where it's coming from, right? You don't have to explain.
you understand this, because the thing is, we're trying to get our fair share. We write you a check, religiously every year, we pay the portion for the entire invoice, and then we seek reimbursement. That's been run into a problem, because one of the entities has not paid us in full.
That's an internal issue.
Well, it's not an internal issue. The thing is, our argument is that they should be paying you directly as well.
That's your argument with.
I mean, this past
Really not
practice,
with us, it's
there's
with
no
them.
question about it, there's been a past practice even when we were here, with full payment was made to rural water control.
But now that they're not paying, now you have an issue, so you're looking to change that process.
Yep, because it
Wrote
ties
your
up,
letter
it ties us
already,
up over
that's
$1.5
not
million.
allowed. We know financially what kind of burden it's on you, but you have a contract with those other fire districts, and it's not necessarily being enforced. So you can't get that enforced, so you put the burden back on the district to try to collect the money.
Contract doesn't say anything about fortunately, it's just fortunately.
Guess what I'd suggest maybe moving their scope.
The moment we do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So before the meeting, we get it. Okay, anything else? Any other bad news?
Can we shut them off? Can we shut them off?
Well, I'd love to shut them
We
off.
could, we're allowed to.
And you know,
It's a
We
possibility.
can shut off all boroughs.
And it's funny you say this tongue in cheek, but in your agreement with NBC, there's a provision in here that if you're not happy with them, you can tell them to go pound sand out. I would love to do the exercise the same thing, and continue to pay you, and then have.
The problem is, we don't
issue.
have an agreement with the other communities, we don't have any kind of past practice of collecting and providing
They
services.
still fall under your charter.
Well, that's your opinion, Ray, that's not our opinion. So,
We all have attorneys.
unfortunately, our attorney agrees with what we have, so.
That's what he gets paid by.
I mean, I don't think and we can talk about this till the prove the face, but I don't think it's your place to tell us what our charter says and what we do with our charter. That's our
I didn't
decision.
tell you what it says, it just says it includes the other municipalities, which would include districts.
But it hasn't, we haven't done in the past, and we haven't set a practice for that, and we
I
haven't approved
understand
to do that
Your
going
past
forward.
practice has done that, I understand it.
Right, but the decision to change that is not with water control, it's with Manapasset, that's all I'm saying.
No, there isn't. I'm not gonna go into.
All right.
Yeah, let's.
Okay.
solve here.
So we'll set something up, but we'll be there for the April 5th, and if any other, you guys are gonna be there as well, we'll look forward to seeing you then.
Thank
I
you.
gather,
for having us.
as he's getting up,
All right, have a
we
good
have
night.
no more presentation, and no more question and answers sections.
No, I think that probably covers most of it.
They're vacating the premises.
Wow. All right, guys, enjoy your rest of your meeting.
All right.
When we get a vote like that.
What's
Yeah,
that?
good
When do we
species.
get a coat like that? We got-
What water control kids you want?
It's not gonna happen, you know that.
That's gotta pay your sewer bill first.
Oh, jeez.
It's paid. Jim's on, I know that.
Any comments, Jim? Was he off?
Jim Horrible, are you on?
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. No, Ray did a great job. I think he got our point.
No comments?
I'm not gonna see him for a while.
Oh, jeez.
Unfortunately, I had to do that because based on the executive session we had, going permission to go ahead,
Well, it's 35 years in the company.
so it's gotta change.
Yeah.
Anyway,
All right.
it was an interesting discussion. Leak detection, we had a leak detection survey done by, the old firm that used to be called New York Leak Detection. They changed their name to GPRS. Apparently they do a broader range of detections within buildings and their mains.
We actually did fairly well. This, only 4 significant leaks and 3 hydrant leaks were very minor. The tally, we paid them $9,500, and the amount of gallonage that we were estimated that we would save is 14.6 million gallons per year. So that basically comes out to about $81,000 we would save by having the corrected. So well within that scope of spending that kind of money, so it worked out really well. And the gentleman basically who did the analysis said that we have a pretty tight distribution system, and it wasn't terribly unusual. We had about 40 miles of pipe, and so the leaks were not substantial comparison. So that leak protection was definitely worthwhile.
Were they spread out amongst the district, or they were concentrated at all?
This is Berlin Water Control.
Yeah, I know, but was it within like a neighborhood, or was it?
No, there's a one on Redwood Lane, one on Wilcox Court, which is not a surprise to me, in Savage Hill, there was a couple. One of them was a bad connection in the middle of the street. So several others were actually service leaks, service lines to the homeowners. Additionally, as you recall, back in last year, early December, we had a substantial, December 3rd actually, Stone Bridge, which is off of Deming Road, basically had a major leak there, and we decided to build Stone Bridge because within the developer's permit agreement, it says that they're obligated to do the work. We went ahead and did the work because our tank dropped down significantly. We didn't want to waste any time. So our staff went out there, plus Butler Construction did the work, and Stone Bridge, which is owned by Metro Realty, reimbursed us with $12,500. So we got completely reimbursed for that project. Christian Lane meters. We, as you recall, basically we replaced the pressure reducing valve at Christian Lane. We're still running into a problem. We just discovered the other day, and I'm not sure how New Britain's going to handle this. Apparently, water is going through the meter, but it's not measuring, and so I'm not really sure what they're going to end up doing. We think that there may be a check valve in the line that may be creating a problem with the actual measurement going through there. But
Check valve on our side
we're
of the
still
line?
investigating it. The check valve's on our side. The check valves prevent flow from us to their system, which probably would never happen unless there's a significant pressure gradient, because they actually have 150 psi on their side. We typically have 130. We reduce it up to 130. In the summer, it goes up to about 140. So anyway, that's that. I do have to have a couple of add-ons, and I'll go over this. I'd like to
Make a
add on
subject.
4.5, public hearing.
Make a motion to get on the public hearing.
Okay, the public hearing.
Second.
I'll second.
Sorry.
Second by Liam, all in favor? Contrary minds? Yes.
We are, I don't know if you've all seen the pictures here, but basically, as you know, we're looking at taking out a loan, the rest of our state loan from the Department of Public Health for a replacement of the 20-inch concrete pipe along the Berlin Turnpike from Glen Road to Woodlawn Road with the ductile iron pipe. We do need to go to public hearing on this. This is an item, I think, what we'd like to do is schedule one real quick prior to our completion, or actually our next monthly meeting. I'd like to try to schedule this within the next week or so. And if we have a little bit more freedom with the time on this, and then we would have public hearing here or upstairs at Public Works, and then make a decision immediately thereafter, assuming there's no input or input, we could just go ahead and make the decision on closing the hearing. Now, a public hearing is to basically talk about the dollar per quarter assessment that would go out to the public. It's $17 per quarter. This would be an individual cost added on to the quarterly billing for the water for that low interest loan. Now, this does not include This is gonna be a separate discussion. This does not include anything from the Worthington Fire District, which we feel that they should contribute as well, but that's a separate story. So this would be at least a $17 per quarter additional fee, very similar to the $20 per quarter fee that was instituted when we did the relining of Venture Brook. So, I'd like to, decide on a hearing date and in a time, possibly within the next week or so.
Do those have end dates on those?
I'm sorry, and dates.
Well, you say you're additionally adding $17 to the bill.
Oh, it's a 20-year loan.
Oh, so it would be
It would
20
be
years.
out for the length of the
The
loan.
duration of
That's
long.
the duration of the loan. Actually, it probably would happen sooner because I do have an amortized schedule that the finance director gave me. But potentially, it could, and I didn't realize that refinancing would be something. This is based on a smaller number of customers. I think our customer range is a little bit larger than that. Plus, if we get 400 more customers or so in the next couple of years, this loan will get paid off.
It's gonna be an area that is being developed in units and stuff there, correct?
It's the entire system. I'm not sure what you're talking about.
So you're charging the whole water system?
Berlin water control, right? It's not specific to the.
It's not just specific to that location where that's.
Oh, no.
concerned.
Who would you charge?
So we're gonna be billing
Yeah, it's
Worthington
going.
and Kensington as well? You're
No.
saying for the whole,
No, Kensington has nothing to do with this. This is our water distribution system.
okay.
Worthington does, but that's a separate issue that has to be
Decide.
negotiated, I guess. That's right.
You have a suggestion on the timeframe? I know you said a week or something like that, but you have a date in mind?
I don't have a particular date in mind. I'm looking for something that's, common
Tomorrow?
for all of you. What's a realistic timeframe? Is on a Monday or Tuesday, like 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock or something earlier where we can have it in and out rather than have to with the evening? Is that a better option? Are you every day or?
Starting next week.
Doing well?
Lacrosse, soccer.
I'll be laid up.
I'll be in the
8 to
hospital.
6.
You're doing lacrosse and soccer. I probably,
Well, he's in the hospital when?
April 6th.
Okay, so can we swing it maybe before that?
I'm available.
Monday night, April 4th.
How does that sound?
What time?
It would be quick because if there is any public input, it would be fairly quick. The only reason I need to have this board there is to make a quick decision to approve the report. Because the next step would be to bring the ordinance to the town council. Because what the town council has to do is with the same thing that they did with the deep loan, is to present a temporary bond. Would be for $2.8 million, a little higher than this because everything costs more, so I'm trying to shoot a little higher rather than lower.
Monday, April 4th.
Yeah, they're
Is
gonna
there a
probably
time?
isolate me for
I
3
don't
days.
know the schedules yet, but
So do you want
Probably
to
earlier
make it
the better.
the week before then?
Yeah,
April 1st?
yeah, April 1st would be
That's a Friday.
enough.
What do you think?
A Friday night, public hearing. No.
No, how about the 31st?
The 31st.
It's Thursday.
I get off work at 7.
Well, this would be your part of your work.
True, true.
Do you get double pay?
No, but I'm sure that they would let me go.
Well,
I don't know what I'm signing any of.
Wednesday, the 30th.
Any time earlier than that, I'm available.
I'm all right.
We have a minimum amount of time that we have to advertise.
Right.
We can't keep up too close.
Can't do Wednesdays.
So Thursday, the 31st. Perhaps 5-ish, or, I mean, if it were perhaps, would it be before? What,
What's your-
I think all the sports stuff probably started around 5 or 6. Can anybody do 4 o'clock? Or is that too early?
I'll do 4.
Four would be fine.
Most likely to do 4. I don't know.
So that would be,
April what?
March 31st. That's a Thursday at 4 p.m. And it probably,
Used to be here.
no, we hold it upstairs, at public works.
Upstairs.
in the Public Works Department, because it's probably, even though will be advertised for the public,
Okay with me.
likely
Is
not.
that room 120?
Yes.
Okay, we need a motion to entertain this whole scenario.
Yes.
So we'll entertain a motion to hold a public hearing
I make a motion.
on 3/31 at 4 o'clock for the duties of.
It should be quick. I mean, in reality, if there's no public, we open it, close it,
Close.
and that's it. Then make a decision based on it. If there's a public, we'll have to listen to it, and then still
Make a decision based off.
There's no way we're not gonna go forward.
Right.
Yes.
Second, I'll second.
Thank you.
Second. All those in favor, aye?
Not after I see this,
That's just scary stuff.
What's the subject you want to do with 4/6?
I mean, for sure.
You said you wanted to add 2
Oh,
items onto
4/6.
the agenda. I
yeah,
got 4 or 5, we
this
just
was
carried.
unfortunately, this was brought up a while back, it's 406 Berlin Street, the gentleman who's the new owner, if you recall,
Okay, so.
4 years ago.
Just a minute.
Hold on. Add, who wants to move to add this
I'll move
item
to add
onto the agenda?
4.6 to.
4.6,
I'll second.
and the subject matter is the
It's a reimbursement for sewer.
Okay.
Gentleman had a,
vote, all in favor,
Aye.
contrary minds?
about 4 years ago, we gave a break to the woman that owned this, it's a board, basically. 406 Berlin Street, she had a main break and we gave him a break. This gentleman bought it and still ended up having a problem, his tax went to a leasing and wants some kind of reimbursement. I looked at his information and he was able to fix it, and also weatherize it, so hopefully it shouldn't happen again. And what I'm seeking is to a one-time credit. Credit comes up to be about $298.96 based on past practice of looking at averages previously. So he's paying for the water, but he can get a reduction on the sewer costs slightly. So I'd like that motion to approve this.
Entertain a motion.
Make a motion.
Second,
Second.
no. All in favor, aye? Contrary minds, nay?
What was the address on that?
406 Berlin.
406.
Berlin Street.
We're on street.
Excuse me.
And a comment that
This will be one time.
Yeah.
For him.
we don't want to see this again. Fix it
Well, he's fixed it.
You did fix it.
permanently.
Well, he's good for us. I don't think the first fix is for us, is the problem.
We
Okay,
didn't even have a cold winter.
getting into these other quickly, old business, Deming Road Pump Station. This is still a problem. We're finalizing the MOU, and I just got an email from FDC. We just want pairs for the design, so it's gonna be a bit of a negotiation issue.
They want their engineers
like
to
the
design
second
it,
one.
not ours. What is it? They don't want our engineers to
They
design it?
don't
They want
want
to
to
do
pay
theirs?
for the design.
They don't want to pay for it,
So
They okayed the design.
even though
well,
they
they
okayed it.
participated in the design. It's a long story. I'm just giving you a quick.
So not, we're
So
getting enough.
the MOU is about ready to go out, so we'll send it out. We're still, I shouldn't say arguing, we're still trying to evaluate the actual percentage. It may end up between 60 to 75% at this point in time. So we're looking at that. However, one thing I do want to point out that the original cost was 2.4 million. It has jumped to 3.4 million. And the rationale for that is this, because almost everything's going up in price for a number of reasons. Some of it being supply
chain. But also the most dramatic cost increase was the concrete pipe, the concrete vault. The vault itself is made by United Concrete, and they gave an estimate to our consultant, the private hired the original ones. And that's just a fact of life.
Material cost increase measure.
And so it's not something but we're looking at potentially funding this and funding it through NBC, so that's still being looked at. Now, 5.2, we did have, I don't think I shared this with you earlier, but we had a problem. Our pump, at the submersible pump, the well 1B went out. That pump pumps around 165 gallons per day,
Per minute.
20 hours a day since 2014. And we just recently had the pump pulled, and while it was pulled, I suggested that they do a resurging, so they resurged the well, and it's back to capacity at 350 gallons per minute now that we can pump that. The new pump was put in, and we also bought a new pump motor, because it was actually a motor that went, so basically, we prepared for the next time it's that. I'd like to go into executive session now. If we have a choice.
Okay, so all business is done with that report.
Need a motion to.
Jim, you still on there?
He's on mute, but
He's on
a
mute.
motion to go to
Okay.
executive session.
Make a motion to go
Go
to executive.
into executive session.
We can leave him
At,
on there because he's
um,
All
on
in
the.
favor, aye?
Is there anybody else who
8:09.
could be on there?
No,
Uh,
she's just not gonna record it.
um, I need to stop.
Okay, so we'll entertain a motion to remove the executive session. Adjourn it. Motion by Barry, second. Second now. All those in favor, aye?
8:24.
Okay,
In German.
and no other business to do, we entertain a motion to adjourn. Al, second. Joe,
I make the motion, he second.
okay, we have an L.
8:25.
All in favor, aye?
I didn't like leaving Art on a bad note, but I didn't have much choice.
He wasn't happy.
Oh, boy, was he.
Hey, I'll get over it.
Well, what's gonna happen now?